From jingle writer to hit recording artist, Jim Brickman has sold millions of albums, while reawakening romance for many of his fans. Hi, I'm Ernie Manouse. Coming up on Interviews, our conversation with Jim Brickman. How would you describe the kind of music you do?
Wow. You know, it's pop instrumental music is really what it is. For such a long time, I was in this new age category, which I always thought was funny because I always think of new age music as like waterfalls and birds singing and sandals and candles, you know? But I'm a songwriter, I'm a pop songwriter. That's really my background. And so I kind of feel like the songs that I write, whether they're instrumental or whether they're vocal collaborations, really fall into sort of an adult contemporary pop category.
But you didn't grow up with music around you, which I think is really strange.
Well, I sort of found my own music. I don't come from a musical family at all. In fact, I think my parents had like 5 record albums, and they were all like, you know, the requisite albums of the 60s, like Herb Alpert, Tijuana Brass, Whipped Cream, and Other Delights, that one. You know, the My Fair Lady soundtrack or whatever, and, you know, Camelot. The stuff that was popular, the records that they bought, it wasn't, maybe like a Carpenter's record or something. But I don't think they were real big music fans. I don't remember them ever, you know, playing music in the house and just sitting, you know, having people over or whatever. It just didn't, it wasn't like that. So I felt like I had to find it myself.
Did you have a piano in the house?
I didn't have a piano, no. My parents, they weren't interested. They were like, why do you want a piano? Like, if we buy you one, then the next day it's going to be like, you want to play the drums, and then you're going to want to play the clarinet. And then, so instead of buying me a real piano, they bought me this piece of green felt that had like the notes drawn on it in magic marker. Right. And I played the felt for about 2 years before I got a real piano. And then they figured, okay, he's serious, because I sounded so good on the felt. So they decided, well, maybe he should get a real piano.
Were you good from the start?
No.
Really?
No. I don't know what good is when you're 5, you know.
Right.
But I took piano lessons from this nightmare woman down the street who just, I didn't get her and she didn't get me, and it was just, I was a rebel at the piano, as much of a rebel as you can be at 5 years old. But I just didn't really go with the flow. I think I was always a songwriter, but when you're a kid, you're taking piano lessons, that's not a developed talent until you're a teenager to write your own music. So I think I was average. You would never have known if you came to my 3rd grade piano recital that you would pick me out of everybody and go, now he should be playing concerts all over the world, you know.
But then do you think you had a gift in there, or was it something you learned?
No, I always think gift is such an odd word, because it's like, yes, I have a gift, you know, and I don't mean it like that. It's just that it comes naturally to me, I guess is the best way to put it. It's not something I think about. It's like people who grow up speaking in a bilingual household. They're exposed to it, and it becomes part of their world, and then when they speak in that language or dream in that language, it's second nature. It's the same kind of thing.
Can you solve problems, think through life by just sitting down at the piano? Is that something you do?
It's not so much of a problem solving as it is an aggression taker, almost like going to the gym and, you know, running or lifting weights. It's a place to put your energy when you're emotional.
Yeah.
And it's a place, I'm very physical as a piano player. I mean, it's almost like, I don't even know how to describe it, like there should be an event in the Olympics for, you know, aggressive piano playing with your arms in a certain, you know, because it's
coming up to do the scales
right
now.
I feel like it's part of my body when I'm sitting there. It's totally comfortable, and it feels like I'm supposed to be doing it. There's not even a question about a choice of, should I play the piano or should I, you know, be an insurance salesman, you know.
Is it something you do in your free time? Like if you're around the house, do you sit around and play?
No? I mean, if you came over for a party, you know, with the crew or something like that, and said, play the piano, play a song. And I used to get invited to people's parties, you know, not as a guest, but as like the entertainment, the requisite piano players there, so let's sing carols. But even now, I don't really practice, and I don't really play for fun, because I'm playing every night. So it's like practicing and playing for fun in my chosen passion of my job, basically.
So when did you decide that you could actually make a living off playing piano?
I didn't decide. That's what I'm saying. It's kind of like it didn't even occur to me. Should I be a performer? Because I never really wanted to be a performer. I always thought, growing up, when I think back about, when you're thinking about what you want to do in your life, I always knew it would be music, but I always assumed that it would be songwriting, accompanying another artist, producer, radio host, something behind the scenes. I never had any desire to be on a stage. It never even occurred to me, primarily because there was no real example of solo piano pop performers that toured around the country and just played the piano or made albums that were just solo piano. And I think that when there's no model for you to look to, I want to be like, you can go, I want to be like Tom Brokaw, or I want, you have a model to aspire to. And I had a lot of performers that I liked, but they were all singers, or, let's say it was Elton John, or, Barry Manilow, or whatever. It was all people who sang and wrote songs, but they were singers. Yeah. They weren't just go up and play the piano. So it didn't occur to me to become a performer.
At some point I heard, and I didn't know this till just recently, were you a motivational speaker?
I was a motivational speaker, yes.
And how did that work?
Well, it worked very well, actually. It was self-proclaimed, of course. Yeah. I mean, I didn't have a degree in sociology or anything like that. But what started to happen was I was in advertising for a long time, doing commercials. And so people would ask me in the advertising business to come speak to their client. Like, okay, you have a muffler store and you want a commercial. And I would come and I would say, to reach your audience. And I would start talking about, but it was all common sense driven, all completely about just everybody has talent, everybody has a gift. It just happens to be that some people cook, some people make great spaghetti sauce, some people garden. And most people don't think of that as a creative talent like they do watching a person play the piano on stage. But it's exactly the same. It's a passion. It comes from inside. It's an instinct. It's something that comes naturally. And so when things come naturally, many times people think that it's not a talent because it's easy.
Right.
And so, but it really is. In fact, I tease about my parents, but my mother is a wonderful poet. Always writes her own birthday cards, won't ever send a bought birthday card. Well, she doesn't think anything of it. She sits down and da-da-da-da in rhyme and everything. And I go, you're like a poet. Oh, it's just birthday cards. People tend to push away that kind of thing that's inside because it's not on a billboard or in a record store or on TV. But everybody has it. You just have to find it. So that's what I spoke about, was creativity, finding your passion.
But that was after the advertising stuff.
It was right after advertising. And then when I was in front of people, because of course I was talking in front of people, I thought, well, if I played the piano like I speak, maybe I could perform this. It really didn't even occur to me to do it as a concert performer. I was comfortable in front of people. I felt totally at ease, but I had no preparation for it. I didn't learn how to do it. It was something that came naturally to me.
Yeah. Okay, so you do all of that. At some point, you decide, I can record.
Yeah, well,
So that decision, at some point you've got to say, okay, I'm going to make this investment. How did that come about? How did you know that was the time?
I had done commercials for a long time. I was in my early 30s, and I went, I've done this for like 12 years. I was very successful in the jingle business, and it was fun, but there's only so much emotional satisfaction you can get out of writing a cat food commercial. Yeah. So at a certain point, you have to think, do I have something to say? And when you become a recording artist, the only reason to do it is if you have something specific to say that nobody else is doing, that is really unique to you. Otherwise, you're just playing other people's songs in your style or something. You have to have something to say. Otherwise, why would someone want to buy the record? And a specific style that no one else plays in. And I felt like I had that, but it wasn't proven or tested. Mm-hmm. So I just went in for my own self into the recording studio and just played some solo piano music, and I listened back to it, and I was like, I would sit down and have a glass of wine with this. I would, have a romantic evening with this. I would take a bubble bath to this, even though it's me, So I thought, well, maybe someone else might find this kind of peace in the music, and that was kind of how it began.
And then you went to Windham Hill. They found you.
I sent very organic. I drove around in my rental car visiting radio stations, and like if I saw a tower, I'd be like, well, that looks like a radio station. Maybe they would play my song. Totally naive, but not without ambition.
Right.
So I didn't know the business. I didn't know how it worked, but I figured, what could it hurt to, Elvis did it, and Loretta Lynn did it, drove around in her car with her husband, delivering her record. So I thought, well, maybe I should do that. I mean, it was totally innocent. And people responded. They thought it was different. It was a time in the pop world when there was a little bit of a window where there wasn't a ton happening. It was like the early 90s, not a huge surge of any specific style. Like a little bit later came kind of the pop renaissance of the boy band and the pop music thing, but it was a little before this, and I felt that this was music and Windham Hill took me on, and as a quality brand name, they put out such wonderful music. A lot of people would just try my music because it was on Windham Hill at the time.
Yeah.
And that was really the way it began.
And Windham Hill went after you because they were hearing you on the radio, or
Windham Hill
came first?
Heard actually through a lot of the radio stations, because I was just going to do it by myself. I thought, like park outside a theater and like sell my CDs. I'd play the piano, but they took notice from radio. Like some of the radio stations started playing my music, and then they caught wind of it. I had sent the tape to them, but they get tons of tapes, and so they had to see more movement.
Right.
And then they kind of said to me, how do you feel about getting your picture taken, being interviewed, touring around the country, never being home, not having any relationships, not having any hobbies, not getting any sleep? How do you feel about that? If you agree to that, you should be Jim Brickman. So I did, and I am.
So you happy to that agreement?
I was very happy. It was a new chapter in my life. We all have those certain careers in life, and this is my second, I guess. I'm not sure if it's my last or not.
Okay, the industry will gauge your success by number of records, chart placement, all that. For you, what did you look to see that you were successful? What was the sign that you had made it?
The sign is when people come up to you and understand what you're putting out there. They react to what I mean to say. So if you come up to me and you say, your music really helped me through a hard time, then I feel like, okay, I'm putting out there what I mean to put out there is being received the way that I meant to send it. The most horrible thing is when you're misunderstood. Like, I mean to be doing something that's romantic, but you think it's cheesy. Or I mean to be doing something that's calming and it annoys you. Or you know what I mean? So to me, the success is people at concerts enjoying the music, understanding what I'm really meaning to do with the music.
You bring up something that makes me wonder. When you talk about romance to cheesy, how do you walk that line? Because it would be so easy to fall over it. How do you stay on the romantic side and don't become cheesy?
It's true. It really is true. Some of it is aesthetic, and you can't really put your finger on it. I think a lot of it has to do with simplicity. I think sometimes when something is overdone, on a piano, too much, it comes off like, I don't know what other word to use but cheesy, because it seems like you're trying too hard. It's not coming from an honest place. You're trying to show rather than feel. And so I believe in the simplicity of my music, that you would be listening to the melody and the melody would connect. And if you feel it emotionally, somehow it doesn't come off as hokey. Yeah. Also, I think I'm a pop songwriter more than anything. And so something like Valentine, for example, could be construed as like greeting card. But if it's done in a really classy way with a nice arrangement and a great singer, it conveys the message in a mainstream way, but hopefully in not too much of a greeting card type of way. I mean, if you read the lyrics, for example, even if the sun refused to shine, even if romance ran out of rhyme, you would still have my heart until the end of time. Sounds total hokey. But in context of a great singer like Martina McBride, beautiful arrangement, a stellar production, and simplicity, it doesn't come off like that.
Right.
And also, it's interesting lyrics. It's not, even though the sun refused to shine, even if romance ran out of rhyme, is a compelling lyric. It makes you think about what does that mean. It's not like, roses are red, violets are blue.
How did you come to work with Martina McBride?
I asked her. This happens all the time. At the time, I had heard her record, and I thought she's a beautiful singer, absolutely beautiful singer, and we were on the same record label, part of RCA, Windham Hill is, and I said, I think it'd be cool to take country singer and new age piano player. Wouldn't that be kind of a cool duet kind of thing? And I called her up and I said, do you want to sing my song? She's like, it's beautiful, of course. And I know there should be a cooler story, but
make one up.
I asked her.
Did you have any idea it would be as successful as it was?
I felt it was compelling. I don't know if you know any of that going in. There's no way to predict. Timing has something to do with it. What the marketplace is buying these days or those days or whatever. There's so many variables to it. It's like a TV program or a movie. There are really no signs any which way that something is going to be what it becomes.
But do you have any innate sense what's going to work, what's not going to work?
I have a belief in the music. I have a belief that this is strong material, and if people get to hear it, they will believe so too, because they'll really make that connection. That sometimes you do put things out there that are your labors of love that they don't happen, and sometimes this is not the greatest thing I've ever done. But in 10 albums, you're going to have those moments. It's like, I'm sure you have that with interviews. It's like when you walk away, sometimes it's like, I should have asked them this, or I should, and there's no barometer for that. You can only do what comes naturally to you at any given time.
Okay, album-wise, you've done 2 Christmas albums, a Lullabies album. Is there an area you want to explore that you haven't?
Well, I've never really played a lot of other people's music in my style, like a specialty record, like a hymns album, or a standards album, or a Disney album, or something like that. I think at a certain point you get to the place where your original material is known, and then it's okay to veer off in those directions. I would never start my career by playing cover songs because I'm a songwriter.
Right.
But later on, sometimes it's fun. That's what I love about the Christmas music, is that I get to interpret the Jim Brickman style on God Rest You Merry Gentlemen or something, and then infuse it with the character that's unique to me.
When you say the Jim Brickman style, what is that? You knew I was going to go there, didn't you?
Well, it's the way that I play. I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, I can be technical about it, but not unless you're a piano aficionado, you wouldn't know. It's like playing sort of the whole orchestra at once. A lot of my background was in theater and accompanying, and I played for this theater growing up when I was in high school for all the children's plays and stuff. And there was no orchestra, just me. So they would be like, you need to play more and make it sound fuller. So I kind of developed this style that's broad and simple at the same time. So it's almost like you might hear cellos when they're not there, or you might hear strings, or something that isn't there, just in the way. I also play in a very pop style, like it's a very contemporary pop thing. It's not a flourishy standard type of style, and it's not very rote. Like if I played Joy to the World, it's going to have all this attitude to it. It's not going to be ding 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 ding. It's going to be, I can't do it without the. See how I do this when there's no piano there?
Would you like a piece of green felt?
It would have an attitude to it, and a vibe, a feel. I don't know how else to say it.
When you record, do you overdub piano on top of piano?
No.
It's all just at the moment.
I actually don't over-record. In fact, there are a lot of times that I'm what they call like a first take guy. Like I play the song, the first time is usually the best. So in most situations in my career, the first time is always the best. And if I keep tinkering, I think it loses emotion. So I'll keep mistakes that I know are there, but if the overall song has a feel and highs and lows and pulls and tugs to it, I leave it, because to me it's about how I play, not what notes I play.
You have a recording studio in your house.
sort of.
So when you record an album, is that where it comes out of?
I record the piano solo stuff at home, but I know whenever I say studio at home, people envision like one of those things like keyboards on top of each other and dials and everything. It's not. It's my piano in my living room. That's it, with just 2 microphones onto a digital tape recorder. So you hear, it's not like baffling or anything. If the birds are singing their birds on the record outside my door, if the FedEx guy comes and knocks on the door, then the knocking is on the album. But it's as real as it can be, and that's what I want it to be. I want people to be able to put on the CD and feel like I'm in the next room playing for them. That's why I work on the sound quality of it, so that it sounds like I'm there. It's not overly, not a lot of echo. It's not like a concert hall. It's like somebody sitting next to me on the piano bench, or somebody's, making out to the music, and I'm there. Just the 3 of us.
Yes, just the 3 of you. So then, are you always working on an album? Is there a certain time when you'll sit down and say, okay, now I'm going to try and record these tracks, or when you have a song that you think is ready, then you record that, then later on, what's the way you work?
It's kind of like a mood thing. If I happen to be in Nashville, I'll call one of my great singer-songwriter buddies and say, do you want to write a song? And if I'm in the mood for it. But I don't push it. I don't get up in the morning and go, I better write a song today, because it's not honest. Yeah. It's like, I could, but it reminds me more of the jingle business. You have to write a song today. And I'm fairly prolific considering the fact that I don't write that much. I write a lot on stage. Like in the sound check, I'll be like, ting, and then Ann Cochran, my female vocalist, will be like, what's that? I go, oh, I don't know, I was just noodling. She goes, I like that melody, that's good. And I have my little tape recorder, and then I shove all these little tapes into a drawer of ideas. They all say ideas on them, and it's like this little crummy tape recorder that doesn't even sound good. And then when it's time to record an album, I pull out the drawer and I play them, and I go, terrible idea, what was I thinking? Wonderful idea, I would have forgotten that kind of thing.
A few months back, we had talked a little bit about on-TV talent searches. And since we talked, then you became involved with an on-TV talent search. What's your view on all of those?
Well, I think it's cool, because I think it's taking people who wouldn't ordinarily have a chance to be known to actually get their shot. However, sometimes it takes people who are basically amateurs and puts them in a situation that they really need more experience to be ready for. Like it plucks them out of their life. There's no, unless you're doing it and you've had a little, played in a club, or you've sung, people sung at weddings and stuff. But the things that I've seen, it just does it's just screwy on your life. It's not. It's like a build-up thing that you have. You know what I mean? Like in your career, I went to this TV station and I got my feet wet and I learned what works and what doesn't work. Well, you can't just pluck somebody out of their daily life and expect them to know how to move on stage, to know how to connect with an audience. They have innate talent, obviously, or they wouldn't be there or picked for the finals. But there's something missing about the development. It takes a while to catch up with their talent. And so that's the only part of it that I think is a little bit off with it. But I think it's cool to have people get a shot at national TV exposure and things like that. But I also know a lot of people that deserve to be, who are so incredibly talented, that don't get a chance. So I have mixed feelings about it. Of course, you won't tell NBC's Today Show about that.
Not a word, I promise. Okay, you talked a little earlier about things you have to give up for the life in the limelight.
Yes.
Is it worth it for you? What have you given up, or have you found a balance?
It is worth it for me, but you definitely trade, like all of us do in life. Some people, they trade their single life to have children. Some people, get a different kind of job so they can take care of their parents, and if they're sick. Everybody has choices that they make. It just happens to be my choices that I feel compelled to perform concerts, to write music. And the thing that I try to keep in balance is sleep, which is hard, and friendships, and love relationships and things like that that are very challenging. At first, it's really appealing. It's like the movie Almost Famous. It's like people are like really attracted to it at the beginning, and then after about like 10 cities of touring with me, they're like, okay, if you want to ever go out again, call me in a year when you're home because I can't take this. It's a lifestyle. It's a unique lifestyle that I'm used to now because I've been doing it for 10 years. So it's not something that you do forever. You do it for a period of time. And I would say most of the people that I know that do what I do, my colleagues and friends, same viewpoint. Exactly the same, whether it's Olivia Newton-John or Steven Tyler or any of the people that I talk to about this. It's something that's totally relatable. You know, everybody has the same experience. You're sleeping when everybody else is awake. You're playing when everybody else is home watching TV and being with their family and stuff. But, you know, the other great thing is, though, you see people you'd never see again. You know, my high school girlfriend pops out of the woodwork, my, you know, relatives I didn't know I had, and that's so cool because it's like, when would I ever see these people again? So that part of it is great, and it's quality time in those cities, seeing people that I probably would lose touch with. So that feels good. You know?
We are out of time. Keep touring, keep recording.
Thank
you so much for doing this.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Jim Brickman. To order a transcript, call 866-652-3378 or send $6.95 to the address on your screen. Please include the name of the guest.